Time is now 6:30. I want to thank everyone for coming today. Before we get started, we're going to have Councilman Dale lead us in prayer. I ask that everyone please stand for the pledge. All right, again, thank you all for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started. Item 1 on our agenda is to consider approval of minutes of the September 20, 2022 regular session, September 27, 2022 special session, and then October 3rd, 2022 special session, and also October 11th special session. Council, if we had time to review the minutes, we'd go ahead and open the floor for a motion.
After reviewing the minutes, I'd like to make a motion we accept them as presented for September 20th, 2022 regular, September 27th, 2022 special, and October 3rd special, and October 11th special.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Adams, second by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. We'll go ahead and close item 1. Item 2 is our August financials. Ms. Reeves.
Good evening, Council. Attached is your August financial report. We have approximately 91% through the year as of August, and the general fund is about 94% of the collections through August. So we are about 3% overall over collections for the year. Sales tax is about 6.51% above the total amended budget and about 7.74% over prior year. We're still doing really good on that. Our property tax is about 97.3% of collections. We only have one more month left in the year, so we should be really good on that. On our utility fund, our water sales is about 2.8% above budget, so our water sales have come back a little bit, so that was really good, and we're happy to hear that. The sewer sales are still down a little bit, but sanitation is up about 2.58%, which has kind of made up for the loss in the sewer sales. So overall, utility fund is about 91.85%, and we're at 91% of the year. So it's still over budget just a little bit, so we're going to be just fine on that. The airport fund revenue, we've been watching their fuel sales. Their fuel sales are up about 38.6%, which is about $793,000 above the amended budget. But their fuel expense is up about the same amount, which is about $665,000. So we're still bringing in more revenue than we are expense on that. And so even though
Excuse me, and that's all to do with fuel costs, correct?
yes, sir. And so even though our fuel costs have skyrocketed, we have generally turned around and sold some of that as well. So even though it's really high on the revenue side, it's really also high on the expense side. So it's still kind of in line with budget, even though it's way over budget on both sides. So, but we have been monitoring that to make sure that it's staying in line and that it's not getting too far out of order with everything there. On general fund expenses, everything's doing really well there. We're at about 92.8% for our budget, even though 91% of the year has passed, but we have paid a lot of our one-time expenses. So we should be a little bit above the 91% because generally any one-time expenses that come out are going to come out, they've been 100% paid. For the utility fund, we are running again about 93.17% with 91% of the year passed. But again, we've paid all our debt service payments, all our principal and interest payments have been paid. So we are still in good shape right now for end of the year. Overall, I think we're doing really well, and we are set to end the year really good condition. And I'll take any questions if y'all have any.
On the franchise fee here, that's just to do with our collection. Is that much better now after we?
Some of that has to do with the renegotiated franchise taxes that we undergone, and with some of the audit that we did and added. As you know, Mr. Thatcher hired some auditors right before I came in to audit our franchise and add the customers that were not on. And so yes, our franchise tax is coming in a little bit more, and so that's kind of what that is.
It also, that's what CenterPoint, that should also include the large 13 or 12 large industries that weren't being paid.
That's 3% above the budget. Do you know what the dollars are on that offhand without putting you on the spot?
For August, it was about $45,000.
That's good.
It was estimated that the increase just over those industries would be about 100,000 for the year.
Ed, that's with the new CenterPoint contract as well?
That is the new CenterPoint contract, and that's the increased number of industries.
I'm glad. Point, so we can get this additional revenue each year now.
Any further questions, council? All right, thank you, Mikhail. We'll go ahead and close that item on the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is item 3, which is to consider approval of pay request from Watson Commercial Construction Ltd. for work on the community center. Welcome, Jordan.
Hello, council. So I have this month's pay application from Watson Commercial. It's pay application number 9. It's certified in the amount of $109,669.50. It's the typical monthly general conditions at the top. The main work completed within this is a little bit more of the metal framing on the interior was completed. The metal building systems erections, that's mainly the exterior panels that you see have been installed on the building itself. 30,000 of it is plumbing, so a lot of the rough-in on the interior has been completed because that's not affected by the roof not being there yet. And then 3,500 is the electrical. Some of the site lighting and things like that, they've gone ahead and trenched to those, run the conduit to those, and some of the other items that were in the exterior walls that had to be put in place before they could do the exterior metal sheathing was also completed. And so that's what that small amount is. I know that some of y'all have seen it, but in case you haven't, an updated construction schedule was also included in your packet from Watson. I'm going to flip over to that. So we currently still do not have a roof on the Pilgrim Center. It's due because the insulation came in as was scheduled whenever I spoke to y'all 2 meetings ago, I believe it was, but a key flashing component did not come in as it was supposed to. And we cannot install the roof, the insulation, nor the roof without that flashing component. And so they're waiting on that. Watson is now trying to find someone else to actually just pre-bend and form that flashing piece rather than getting it from that manufacturer that was supposed to be supplying it, since it's become such a difficult task to get them to get that on site. And so this is their updated construction schedule, and due to the delay of getting the roof in, which makes it to where we can't do most of the interior work, they are now anticipating that the turnover date to y'all is now February 7th, where it was December 30th. So it's a little over a month delay due to this. They are trying to do other items like the site lighting and things like that. They really don't want to do, the only other item they really could do at this point is to do the parking lot, but they hesitate on doing that because if they do it now, then there'll be all the traffic from the constructors and marking up the parking lot, where they'd rather turn it over to y'all with a white, clean concrete parking lot for y'all. And so we agreed with that. And so it's really just a matter of waiting to find this flashing piece or find a company that will bend it for us and create the flashing piece. Most of the exterior metal panels are complete. If you've been past there, they've also put up what we call the Vesta panels, which are the metal panels that look like wood. So there are items being done, but until we get that flashing piece, we're about to kind of be at a standstill.
Jordan, do we have the specs on that flashing piece?
It was supposed to be part of the insulation piece. Are you talking about the gauge and the bend and everything?
And all that, because I'm pretty sure we got folks here and locally that could accomplish that.
That's what they're trying to do, because it's not like a catalog piece. It was supposed to just be a component that was part of the insulation system. So we don't have all of the specifics of the bends, and so that's what they're trying to find out right now.
Do we know of any other snafus, I'm gonna call it, or anything else that they're anticipating right now? I mean, I know this is worldwide, it's not just to do with our project, but I'm saying, is there anything else right now that they've told you that they're anticipating maybe could be a standstill on it?
No, the only thing that they were concerned about was the movable partition, which I spoke to y'all about a few months ago, but we've already gotten a new company on board. They have actually already come and installed the structure for that track system. It's already hanging from the beam, so if you actually walk into the building right now, you'll see part of the track suspended from the beam. And so especially now that this is being pushed back, I'm not foreseeing there being an issue with that, but that was the only item that they were really getting concerned with, was since their first company went bankrupt, was finding the alternate, but they've already secured the new company.
So it'd be fair to say that at this stage that you're satisfied with your walkthroughs. Do y'all do that on a monthly basis, as far as checking the workmanship and satisfaction of all that?
Yes, sir. We've been very pleased with the level of craftsmanship of their subs, and their superintendent, Nathan, has been very diligent in overseeing that. And the other thing I will note is that if you look at the general conditions of the pay app, you can see that percentage-wise, they're going to run out of funds before the now new completion date of February. And we've talked to them about that and what they're planning to do moving forward, because on other projects they've requested additional funds, not Watson, but other GCs we're working with right now. And they said that that is not their intention, that it's a fixed fee project to them, and so it's their job to get it done within the time, and they're not going to be asking for additional general conditions on their side for the extension of the construction schedule. So
Okay, sounds good. Council, we have any further questions at this time? Okay, we'll open the floor for a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion that we approve this pay request from Watson Commercial Construction Ltd. for the work on the community center that's been presented tonight.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Dale, second by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. We'll go ahead and close item 3 on the agenda.
Thank you for being here.
Our next item is item 4 on the agenda. It's to consider approval of pay request from WM Miller Construction for work on the 24-inch water line replacement, I-30 plant to EWT.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and City Manager. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys today. What you have before you is a pay estimate for $18,721.62 for the 24-inch water line replacement project. This project is moving along at a good pace. We think it's just a few weeks away from being finished, and the work has been very good quality so far.
So what, there's a little less than 10% left, so can you tell us what's left?
So they're actually at the Edwards storage tank right now, and they're making final tie-ins, is basically, and it's just it's time consuming to make those final tie-ins.
So this will be the final pay?
There will be one more pay estimate for the final work that they're doing right now.
Do you know offhand what the dollar amount of that'll be?
I don't know. We'll just have to balance it out, but it should be within our budget for sure.
But again, you're satisfied with the quality of work and everything that goes along with it, you're satisfied with it?
I mean, we've had to go back a couple of times and fix some things, but that's just the way it happens sometimes. So, but yes, they've been agreeable to do all of that.
All right, council, we have any further questions? Floor is open for a motion.
I make a motion to approve pay request for WM Miller Construction for work on the 24-inch water line replacement I-30 plant to EWT.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Chappelle, second by Councilman Dale. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Vote is unanimous. We'll now close that item on the agenda. Our next item is to consider approval of pay request from Tanksco INC for the work on the I-30 storage tank rehabilitation. Lenny?
Mayor, Council, Mr. Thatcher, once again, it's a pleasure to present this. This is for the work on the I-30 storage tank rehabilitation project. The payment's in the amount of $290,073. This project has moved along very well, and because it's a painting or a coating project, I'm really happy to say that after some of the others that we've presented. So, but they are on schedule and have been doing a good job.
Floor is open for any questions on this item. Okay, we'll go ahead and open the floor for a motion.
I make a motion to approve pay request for Tanksco Incorporated for I-30 storage tank rehabilitation.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Chappelle, second by Councilman Dale. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Vote is unanimous. We'll now close item 5 on the agenda. We'll move now to item 6. Item 6 is to consider approval of pay request from Anchor Contracting LLC for work on pavement rehabilitation phase 2.
Mayor, Council, this is a pay request for Anchor Contracting for the pavement rehabilitation project. This is the project that is budgeted for every year to do pavement repairs. There are 2 pay requests just from the timing. Number 1 is for $80,739.80. Number 2 is for $479,369.27. This project is to the point that we're basically doing cleanup and some striping, and the striping was being worked on this week, and I know if they got it done by today or not, but we're getting real close to the end of this project, and we are under budget, and it is on time.
Do you remember how much under budget, Lanny?
I knew you were gonna ask that after the last question, but no, I did not figure that. I just know that we had some milling left over. We decided we were gonna take more milling out in one area that we decided not to, so we had some milling left over. And that's helped us with our budget to move along.
All righty, any further questions? We'll go ahead and open the floor for a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve this pay request from Anchor Contracting LLC for the work on the pavement rehabilitation phase 2 as presented by Lanny tonight.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Councilman Dale, second by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. We thank you, Lanny. We appreciate you. We'll now close that item and move on to our next, which is item 7. Consider approval of sale of the 1.5 acres of surplus property owned by the city of Mount Pleasant located on TBD County Road 1312.
Mayor and council, this is the acre and a half lot up on Billy Daniels, almost to 271 there on the corner. And in fact, Carrie and Candace can answer all the questions for you probably, but we got it appraised at I forget exactly what it was, 24,000 or so, but then the cost of the appraisal was about 1,500, and the cost of or vice versa, the cost of the surveying was another 500. So the total was another 2,000 we added to the price. We're gonna go, if you approve this for sale, we're gonna go out and ourselves without a broker. We're gonna advertise it and put the minimum bid on it and take bids. It's under Carrie's watchful eye, and Candace will be doing it.
Okay, floor opens for any question. There's no questions. We'll go ahead and open the floor for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the sale of the 1.51 acres of surplus property owned by the city of Mount Pleasant located on TBD County Road 1312, TCAD ID 17855 as presented.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Chappelle, second by Councilman Dale. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. Now close that item on the agenda and move on to item 8. Item 8 is to consider approval of ordinance 2022-22, keeping a file within the city limits.
Sorry, my ears must be clogged. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Mr. Thatcher. So a few months ago, we brought forth to you a potential fowl ordinance or keeping of hens within the city limits. I don't believe that item had an action possibility for the council at the time. It was just a presentation. We never brought it back to you. I've had a couple more people bring it up, so we thought we'd bring it back to you with a possibility of action for the council to consider. So I did speak with one of my animal control officers. We know there are people currently keeping some fowls. Current ordinance is that you can't keep anything in the city. Most of the complaints we receive are related to roosters. The definition in this ordinance does not allow anything except for egg-laying hens, and it defines what fowl is based on that, and it does not allow for any other type of feathered friend in the backyard or on the property. And so we don't see an issue there. There's several items we tried to make sure to cover in the ordinance. I believe you have a copy of it. It limits the number to 6 per household or lot or parcel. They have to be confined in a pen, coop, or other enclosed structure, and that has to be enclosed on all sides, including the top. And it has to be kept in a clean and sanitary condition. Has to be kept towards the main part of the dwelling and not visible by neighbors and at the street level. And they also have to comply with city ordinance related to noises, so that won't change. And it's also unlawful to keep them for commercial purposes. I think the only change we made is the original ordinance we proposed had a requirement that every 2 years they submit for a permit with the city. So that we didn't overburden our office over there, we decided to remove that portion of it and just allow animal control services to control complaints based on the ordinance that we would have in place.
Let me ask you, the part that we're looking at, that's highlighted in yellow, this is the change, or this is just what's pertaining to the new ordinance as far as the fowl goes, or help me with that just a second?
Yeah, so this is actually be an entirely new ordinance. Everything in yellow is new. The current ordinance just says no keeping of fowl within city limits. So I included the definitions portion just because the fowl portion is the new portion.
Chief, I heard you say that it's now defined as it has to be a laying hen, and having raised chickens in earlier part of my life, I know that hens get at a certain age, they stop laying. I was wondering, is there an enforcement part of this, or you can go out and check them, or how do you find out if they're laying or not?
Well, I guess if they've laid, they would be legal, even if they've stopped and reached an age where they're no longer. I thought you were going to tell me that roosters lay eggs, and I was going to call you out on that one.
I just remember on the farm, we'd hear them cackling. Dad say they're either laying or lying, and so I just remember.
Good.
Chief, I got a question for you. If under this new ordinance, there is a complaint or repeated complaints by one citizen against another as to noise or anything that's, at what point and what will be done to correct the issue if it does become a problem in a certain location?
So this would be like any other city ordinance. Our animal control officer go out and issue a citation, or an officer could issue a citation to that homeowner, and multiple citations could be issued over time. One of the reasons we included the hen, obviously, is for that noise, is to prevent noise issues. So we hope that that's prevented through the ordinance as well as the 50-foot buffer from any other dwellings around that property. So we hope to prevent a lot of that as well.
So, Chief, just a clarification too, the language that's highlighted in yellow, was that language adopted from these other surrounding cities that you did research with?
Yeah, some of it. I didn't want it to just be somebody else's ordinance. I tried to adopt it based on what we think our community would be involved in. Some of them are lengthy, some of them are very short. We tried to take things that were reasonable, that we thought for our community would match, especially the sanitation and the coop and visibility ordinances, and make it something that's enforceable for our animal control officers, but it's also reasonable for our citizens.
And this is an ordinance, I'm assuming, that most all cities have. We've just failed to do. Has this been I know we talked about it previously, but just for the public input tonight from you, is this a problem, or are we just trying to circumvent a problem here?
No, it was something that was brought to you by a citizen. I've heard it a couple more times requested, so we thought we'd just bring it to you. There are a lot of cities that allow it, and I think it's become more and more common. And I've even seen it in some pretty urban areas and cities. They're quite a bit more restrictive, and I've seen some more rural areas that are a little more loose. So we just wanted a happy medium for our community.
Because of my experience when this first happened in another city I was in, I just told people there's no way you're going to be allowed to keep chickens in your backyard on a quarter-acre lot or a half-acre lot. And then we started looking into it and found that there's a way to do it. Some of them require the coop to be portable, and you move it every so many days around, so it's not just in one spot. But they restrict it to hens only, and it works out okay. They have some of them in Highland Park and University Park, by the way, so they can do it. So changed my mind on the deal.
I have a daughter that lives in Old Lake Highland area of Dallas, and her neighbors have it, have chickens, and only thing that my daughter's got out of the deal is some fresh eggs, so she doesn't mind at all. So it's not an issue. I've been over there. It's done in a lot of areas, and it's not an issue.
And again, the belief of one of the animal control officers I spoke to about the roosters was that over the last few years, people have gotten chickens and then either used them for meat or eggs and then got rid of the chickens but kept the roosters. And those are the complaints we get, so.
I noticed we have limitations of 6. How are we gonna manage that as far as knowing how many they actually have?
6 per household and multifamily, it has to be a single dwelling residence. So it'd just be 6 per household. So you don't have to see if there are multiple families living in the home, it'd just be 6.
Chief, just over here, just a question. On what did you say about the permit? You decided about the permit?
So we felt that it would just be something else for licensing a track every 2 years, and I don't know that it's actually a deterrent or something beneficial to the city. So I decided to remove, it was a couple lines just requiring a permit. I think we put a fee in there every 2 years, and we just thought it's easier to track an ordinance than to track permitting every couple of years, because we don't know who has them. And so some people will come in, some people won't. I felt for our community, maybe it's just better we just deal with it as there's issues through the ordinance rather than require people to come in every 2 years and register.
The reason I was asking, it still had, I noticed that other day, when it still had in there, person possessing shall obtain a city permit every 2 years. I didn't know if you wanted to leave that out or.
So I think this was Candace and I had shared a revision, and I think this is just this part wasn't taken out in the one that got into your packet, so I apologize for that. That paragraph D would be removed. Yeah, no, I apologize. That section D will be removed.
Okay, do we have any further questions, council?
Thank you.
Now we'll go ahead and open the floor for a motion on this item. Thank you, Chief.
I'll move ordinance 2022-22.
I'll second that.
A motion by Councilman Adams, second by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Motion is unanimous. We'll go ahead and close that item on the agenda. Our next item, item 8 is, item 9 is to consider a request from Dr. Keaton Shaw for the approval of the preliminary plat for the North Ridge Villas Apartments Phase 1 and Phase 2 being attractive land located in the Berry Merchant Survey, abstract number 358, Titus County, Texas, and in the city of Mount Pleasant, and being all of a called 6.35 acre tract, just tract 1, and all of a called 1.45 acre tract, tract 2, conveyed to DK Skyrise LLC in a deed known as instrument number 2021055 of the Public Records of Titus County, Texas, and is generally located south of Interstate 30 between Business 271 and FM 1402, City of Mount Pleasant, Texas.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council, and Mr. Thatcher. And if we got the PowerPoint going, we've got a location map here for you. The subject property is located on the south. It's just south of I-30. You've got Jefferson Avenue on the west side, and then on the east side, Industrial Boulevard as well. The property can be accessed, as you can see, off of Washington Avenue as well. The applicant is proposing a multifamily unit here, 132 units for the development. and they're going to provide this in 2 separate phases. Phase 1 being 72 units with a clubhouse, retail facility, and some other amenities with this. And then Phase 2 will come in a little bit later, and that'll be the remaining 60 units for this. So the purpose of the preliminary plat here this evening is just to assure that that we have adequate facilities for the development, and that's in, regarding water, sewer, the drainage and so forth, and of course the necessary easements for that. And the one thing that we do have city water, city sewer available, so they're going to tie into those existing systems there. The one thing that the applicant is doing, they are still working with our engineering because they have some issues with the drainage, so they're trying to work those issues out. And so that is a recommendation that staff is including, and as a condition of approval, that final engineering will need to be approved prior to the start of any construction for this. They'll also need to meet all the fire department requirements, and they'll also need to final plat the property prior to issuance of a CO. With that, the Planning and Zoning Commission did meet on October the 11th, and they're affording a recommendation of approval. With that, staff is available for any questions.
Is this a one facility or a 2-story or 3 or?
This would be a 3-story facility.
And this property, just for the public, kind of behind the Northridge Church of Christ, is that correct?
Yeah, actually, the Church of Christ, if I can get this, is located right here, and so they are just east of, kind of northeast of there, but the Northridge Church of Christ is located right there, yes, sir.
Just, has this applicant, has he done apartments before? Is he local or?
Yeah, let me check with Robert on that and see if he has any information on that.
They're not local. They're out of the Metroplex, but they have been involved with development of this type before. But they're a company that's working out of Dallas.
I know this may not, because y'all haven't approved the final plat yet, or the final plans yet, but do we know, are they accessing entrance from Washington or from the interstate or both, or do we know that? Both sides? Okay.
Yeah, there are 3 points of access. You can come in off of Washington if you come down Industrial. They also have 2 points of access they have gained from the church, being easements off of Gage Avenue, and then as well as off of Burton, right up in this area as well too.
Okay, so they're working with the church on those easements.
Yes, those easements are in place. Yes.
And this, as you said, y'all are still working on the final approval. So this is a planned development where we'll have some knowledge of materials and talk to me about that.
This is a straight zone property, so we don't have any development standards actually with this particular project.
Okay, but we do have this contractor has built apartments in prior and is known for quality work, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I should say that they are providing masonry product with stone and brick on this, so and some articulation as well with the building. So this is a quality product.
Do we know yet our infrastructure as far as the lift station and what we might have to do as far as that goes? Is the existing one that we have out there take care of what we've got? And located down in the draw there. Is that where that one is, if I remember right?
And so, what drainage issues are they concerned with? Are you familiar with that detail?
What that is because you have a creek that bisects the property, a pretty deep one. They are working with with their engineering to be able to get a hydrological study for that. That's going to determine the upstream, downstream flows on that, and to make sure there's no adverse effects or anything from the drainage.
Right, because I know that area close to Burton Road there is low right there, and when it rains a lot, it holds water.
Right, yes, sir, that's correct.
Would this qualify, would this particular one here qualify for some of the new policy we put in place as far as the retention area? And I guess it's what that drainage would be there, maybe a retention pond, I'm going to call it for lack of a better term. This would So that's part of the study for this.
Yes, what we're asking them to do is do a hydraulic model because there is a floodplain in that area and it actually is a zoned area with FEMA. We wanna make sure that we're not increasing that zoned area where it backs up into this property, as well as we don't wanna have any detrimental impact on either side. This is right by the interstate where there's a restricted flow that's coming through. It's a difficult place for drainage.
It's already been cleaned up back there. They've already cleaned the trees and all pretty much away, I think, if I remember right.
No, I don't believe there's any clearing at this point.
Well, I don't know if it's completely clear, but they've cleared 90-something% of it off, so they've done clearing already.
It's cleared. It's cleared. We've been watching them clear for several months now. They've been trying to clear it up and get it cleaned up. As Lanny spoke to it, that just not to butt in, but I guess I'm butting in. So, it's been an ongoing thing with the creek, and since we've adopted those engineering design standards, from this point on, people come in with projects, they got to adhere to our drainage requirements, and it's become more critical because now we're putting a lot more streets in, a lot more concrete. We're increasing the flows. This is a pretty severe, pretty good sized creek, and there are potential drainage issues there, and we don't want to impact the surrounding property. So they'll do a hydraulic study, as David said, and that'll take a bit of time. But we wanted to get the preliminary going so we wouldn't stall them on that. But we're holding back on, this final approval. They'll have to come in with engineering, and they'll have to be approved by our engineer, not their engineer, but our engineer from the study that we get back, and we'll make those determinations then.
That was my question, because I wanted to make sure that this wasn't maybe grandfathered, because I know they've been working on that for some time now, several months, cleaning and clearing and what have you, so make sure it wasn't grandfathered before, that this was still applicable for that.
And my apologies, when I'm new here, drove the site, I didn't see any disturbances. Thank you, Robert, for coming up and clarifying that.
Long as we stay on top of this, I'm happy with that. So, just make sure we stay on top of the drainage issue.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Dave. Do we have any further questions at this time, council? If not, we'll go ahead and open the floor for a motion.
I'll move for the approval of the preliminary plat for Northridge Villas Apartments, Phase 1 and Phase 2.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilman Adams, second by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. We'll go ahead and close that item on the agenda. Our next item, item 10, is to consider approval of ordinance 2022-20, the request of Juan Mata, applicant owner, for a zoning change from single-family residential district to a neighborhood service district on a .2017 acre tract of land described as Lot 33, Block 230, Mount Pleasant City Blocks, City of Mount Pleasant, Titus County, Texas, and generally located on the northeast corner of Otyson Street and West Cash Street.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. And if we get the location map here, you can see that it's on the southeast corner of Otyson and Cash Streets. And we go to the zoning map. You can tell now that the area zoned is single family 2 for single family residential district. And what the applicant is requesting is to change the zoning to a neighborhood service use, and that's to allow for a food store, grocery type store for the neighborhood. And let me show you the image. This is the current structure that's there. It was built back in 1963, and understand that it was used as some type of a retail, commercial, neighborhood type of use on this, and it's been vacant for some time. But as you can see on the property, it does have some issues with the site in that it is small. And so some of those are some of the things that the applicant will have to address. Not only will they need to meet the building requirements, but also fire department requirements as well as ADA standards as well. But the one thing that if you are considering the zoning on this one, We do need to, the applicant will have to go before the Board of Adjustments for variance for the head-end parking that will occur on this particular property. And so should that happen, that will be the next step for that. The Mount Pleasant 2050 Comprehensive Plan does take a look at this area as compact residential, and so with that, how that's designated does allow for commercial businesses that will support the neighborhood. And so with the use that's being requested, this is compatible with the recommendations of the future land use plan. With that, we did send out 20 notices to property owners within 200 feet. We did receive 3 notices back. Those are in your packet. 2 of the notices are in favor of the request. However, we did receive 1 that was not in favor of the request. That particular notice actually covers 4 properties. Their house pretty much covers 1 property, however you want to take a look at that. But it is just 1 notice that we have against. The Planning and Zoning Commission did review this at their last meeting on October the 11th and forwarding a recommendation of approval. With that, this is a public hearing, and I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Can tell me what it's going to be again?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
What type of place is it?
They're talking about a small grocery store and possibly serving some meals like tacos, things like that. And the applicant is here who can answer probably those questions a little bit better than I can.
Yeah, go ahead and have him come up.
The parking you think is gonna be adequate though for what needs to be done?
Yeah, the parking right now, since it's about 1,350 square feet approximately, it's going to require 7 parking spaces, and the Board of Adjustment can take a look at that to grant a variance if they see it necessary.
Council Mayor, so you can ask me and I'll try to translate as best I can.
Mr. Walker, go ahead with your question.
To just explain the purpose of the building.
Okay, ¿lo puedo repetir?
Oh, sí, el propósito de ese negocio que quiero hacer es para vender gorditas, burritos o refrescos, algo pequeño.
The purpose of the restaurant is to sell burritos, gorditas, tacos, and drinks to the neighborhood.
Are they planning on running it themselves? Are they planning on running it themselves? Is it a family business?
¿Correr el negocio usted solo con la familia?
Sí, en familia.
So, are we gonna be reusing the building we see there, or is it gonna be something completely new?
¿Va a renovar el edificio o va a hacer algo completamente nuevo?
Lo voy a renovar.
He's gonna renovate.
Necesito un tiempo para renovarlo bien perfectamente, que esté en buenas condiciones.
He is asking for some time so that he can renovate and make sure that it's in good condition.
Okay.
The zoning, as it is done, is basically for a small convenience store. What staff-wise, we're considering accessory stuff, like most little stores might have a little grill in there that they'll do. It's not gonna be a restaurant. It has to be a store, grocery store with accessory food sales. That's what it'll be.
But can you make sure that he understands that?
Una tienda de conveniencia que no va a ser necesariamente un restaurante, pero va a tener que ser como tienda y luego va a poder vender.
Sí.
All right, thank you.
And what is he gonna call this place?
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Ron.
Sorry for getting into it, but I was on the front end of this thing for a while. So apparently at the P&Z meeting, all the P&Z people that were there, or commissioners, recognized this place as being some sort of store from 30, 40 years ago. I don't know how it's been recognized as being something for many, many years. Has been vacant for a number of years, but it was some sort of small store at some time in the past.
question is parking.
Right, so that's one of the things that we'll need to take a look at whenever they have the site plan come in and take a look at this. With 7 parking spaces, is that available? Probably, but until we have a site plan or at least a sketch plan to see how they're going to park that, if they are unable to do that, the Board of Adjustments can take a look at that as well and see if that's available for a variance also.
Just one other thing on that. The only way we could do this is that they have to get a zoning first. We can't really take it to the Board of Adjustment with the property is not zoned for that particular use. So if they were able to get the neighborhood service, then we can address the variance to the parking after they come in. And there's some flexibility we can look at under the circumstance. What it is in a variance situation with the Board of Adjustment, a lot of times the hardship is based on the lot itself. And this is an existing non-conforming structure that's been built there for years that didn't have any real parking in today's standards. But that is a hardship that's been placed on the property if we continue to do it. So that is something that the board can actually look at and make a determination on.
Is there a required, per building required amount of parking on the size of the building, right?
Yeah, it's based on the square footage of the thing. It's 1 to 300, is it? 1 to 200. So they're going to be tight. I think from looking at it, we think we can get accommodation for some parking. And the only thing might be, like David has mentioned, that the variance might be to the effect of they may have to, it's that head-in parking thing that we may have to look at there.
And just for the public knowledge, again here, this is, this request is being submitted for a zoning change from a SF2 single-family residential district to the NS, which is a neighborhood service district, correct? Just for the public, the ones that are here and listening to us tonight on what the issue is.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
Well, I for one, if it's something that'll update it and put it in a good use, not to mention, get the neighborhood looking a little better. And I mean, if they need 7 spaces, if all we can get is 6, I'm for that, because whatever we need to do to get these properties that are downtrodden a little bit up and operating and bringing in some tax dollars.
And there might even be a parking space or 2 behind it. I don't know how that is positioned on that lot there, but there might be a few parking spaces at the rear of it that would make it qualify for the intended purpose here.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's something we would take a look at as well. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dave. We'll go ahead and open the floor on the motion if we have no further questions. Oh. Oh, I didn't. Okay, well, we'll open it for public hearing. I didn't see it here in the agenda itself, but do we have anyone in the public right now that would like to speak on this item? Council, do we have anything further? Okay, we'll now close the public hearing section of this item and open the floor for a motion.
Kerry, does it say a public hearing here anywhere in the? I don't see it either. I heard them say there's a public hearing. I don't think that we've given notice.
Yeah.
Do we need this as a public hearing to start with, Robert?
Okay, yeah,
If
it wasn't on the agenda as part of the
that's the
public hearing,
case, I
but if
think we
that's,
would-
yeah.
I believe we'd have to go back,
Kerry, what is your?
Kerry, that would have to go back and do this maybe at the next council meeting, if we do have to have a public hearing, being it wasn't posted.
I'm kind of like, I didn't get a chance to look at these because we were out of town this weekend, but I believe you went through the motions, but it wasn't on there, so we ought to make sure there's not any problems with it. Because he's right, he can't go for his Board of Adjustment until he gets it rezoned. I'm sure everybody's sitting there thinking, why are you, getting the cart before the horse? But there's not anything you can do about it. So, yeah, I think you should on that. Yeah, I'm sorry too. I was out of town. I didn't get to take a look at it till.
The other thing is if we go back and do it, I don't know that you can just put it on. You got to advertise again, don't you, Robert? We have to advertise again and put the date of the public hearing, so it may push it out a ways longer.
No, that's correct. I honestly, I didn't see this. I didn't see the agenda on Friday. I thought it was posted that way. It should be hold a public hearing. Hold a public hearing. The wording should be hold a public hearing to consider approval of the ordinance instead of that. So if it isn't on there, then we'll have to put it back on.
How time sensitive is it? for you?
Well, there was one that was time sensitive on here because it's the next one that's coming up. It's a financial thing with the bank closing, and it's exactly the same thing. We were trying to get it on there for these folks so they could actually close on their home. They were trying to get they had a closing coming up on this thing, and the only way they can get the financial, to explain it, the only way that they were going to be able to get it financed is that the zoning needed to be changed because it created a nonconformity on this house that had to be sold. So, yeah, that's, I apologize for that happening.
Okay, and that's also required on the next item also, right?
Yes, sir. It'll be the same thing.
So Kerry, you are advising us that we need to, this needed to be published for us to go forward with this, correct?
Yeah, you really should, Tim. It's part of the process and whatever. So I know it seems it seems a little useless because we went through the motion here, but it is what it is.
Is it possible, Robert and David, is it possible that you could advertise it and come back for a special meeting, or can you do it for the November 1st meeting?
No, we gotta have 15 days notice. We have to send it back out to the public. We have to do this in a newspaper. It has to be, within, you got 15 days before you can do it for the council. So it'll be, yeah, it won't be the next one.
So, but for item 11, is this gonna push that homeowner out, and then they're gonna have to reschedule, I guess they're closing, et cetera?
We can actually mail the notice out. We can get it in the newspaper fairly quickly, and we can mail the notice. Yeah, well, it's just for the council. I think we were advertised correctly on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'll check that. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, it just wasn't on the agenda. We had it in the notice. The notice was correct, so the P&Z is okay. I think we could take it just to the council for, we have to, it's 15 days for the council. We can look at that. If we can get it to we can get it to that meeting, we'll get it to that meeting then.
As far as I'm concerned, if we can shave a week off of it, I hate to put these people out like that when it's just a technicality really on our end. So if we can expedite this even a week, I say that we try to do that if at least 3 or 4 of us can get together on that night to get this expedited, especially if there's a bank involved and it's time sensitive, as you're saying. I think a week might help them. I hate that this has happened.
Again, we apologize.
Okay. Well, thank you, Rob. Kerry, we appreciate it. With that information, we're gonna go ahead and, what's that? Oh, yeah. Make sure you let them know also, Pearl. Yeah. Okay.
Lo que están diciendo es que aquí donde en el número 10 tendríamos que decir que tenemos que tener una audiencia para el público para darle la oportunidad a las personas que vengan y den su opinión. So, como no tenemos esto, no van a poder aprobar esto esta noche. Va a ser hasta el 1 de noviembre. ¿Tiene alguna pregunta?
No, está bien.
¿Está bien?
He understands it's nothing he did. It's just a technicality on our end. That's what we'll need to do if we can at all then to try to get this accommodated for these people, I think.
Yeah.
Mañana van a tener la fecha y le van a avisar.
Okay, perfect.
Gracias. Y perdón, no es tu culpa.
No.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Okay, with that being said, and the information brought before us, We're gonna go ahead and table item 10 and 11 for our next, meeting. I guess the next, it'd probably be the 8th, would it be the 8th of November, right? You good, is that correct? Around the 8th of, okay, all right. So we'll move those items to the 8th so that we can also have our public hearing with those items. Okay. Okay, we're gonna open up the floor to table these items.
I'll move we table item 10 and 11, ordinance 2022-20, and ordinance 2022-21.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Adams, second by Councilman Chappelle. I'm sorry, Councilman Dale. Madam Secretary, record a vote.
Aye.
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 Motion is unanimous. We have now tabled 10 and 11 until November 8th. We'll close those items as of now and move on to item 12, which is our public comments. Do we have anyone in the public at this time that would like to address the council?
I apologize, I've been a little preoccupied over here. I wanted to bring something to the attention of Mr. Thatcher. Me and Anthony have actually been working on text messages back and forth. We've got a trailer park here in town that's out of gas, and they were out of gas last night. We're trying to get it turned back on for them. I know it's going to be cold tonight, and we're working on that. So I've been working with Anthony trying to get hold of the contractor and get everybody out there and get the gas turned back on for them. But I just want to make sure Mr. Thatcher was apprised of what we got going on. So Anthony knows what we got going on, got the landlord's phone number and everything. So we're working on that. I apologize for being preoccupied over here.
I have a question. In reference to the library building, Mr. Thatcher and Ms. Helen Thompson, can you all just give us an update, please?
It's more of a library thing.
It's speeding along. They have till the end of December, from what I understand, to finish, but I think within the next couple of weeks they'll be through. They're at the end of it now, and it looks good. Looks really good. So we've kind of been laughing about this a little bit. It may take us longer to move in than it did to build it, but we're going to do the best we can. And when we're ready to, we'll call y'all to help us come over and trudge that stuff across the street.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Allen. Do we have any further questions or comments, council, for our public comment? If not, we'll go ahead and close that item on the agenda and move on to item 13, which is our city manager's report. Ed?
Yes, I have one thing. I'd like to invite the chief to come up and tell you about it. It's in his purview, so I'll let him explain it.
Good evening. We just wanted the council to be aware that as we've been kind of looking at processes and procedures, one of the things we were looking at is the hours we keep over at the animal control shelter. We've looked at, we currently have 4 employees. 3 of them are animal control officers, and then our shelter manager. And with staying open 6 days a week, it means Saturdays and then 2 other days we're short-staffed. So we've been looking at how to get more of the animal control officers out in the field. They approached me about looking at Saturdays, possibly closing on Saturdays. And so we looked at Saturdays for volume of what comes in and out. We found it's not any different than any other day of the week. And then I took it a step further. I looked at a lot of cities our size and in our area. And most of the cities our size are closed 2 days a week, and most of that time is Saturday. We're actually currently open all day Saturday, and we didn't even shorten our hours, which is even common with the larger cities. When we look at Texarkana and Longview, a lot of them will shorten their hours on Saturdays. So we've decided we're going to close the shelter on Saturday and see how that increases our enforcement during the week, gets our animal control officers out more in the neighborhoods, being able to do some enforcement and responding to calls and just checking around the neighborhood. We don't think it will change or reduce the service, but actually be a better opportunity for getting them out on the street. And then, we'll kind of gauge and see how it goes. But
Will you still have someone on call on the weekend?
yeah, we have somebody on call basically 24 hours a day. And sometimes our officers don't call them. They'll actually take an animal out there. We've given them access to there so they can do that. But yeah, they always respond, and they're really good about that.
Chief, what are the hours that we do operate?
So right now, the shelter itself is open 10 to 4. They're there all day, but if we bring people in at 5, they're there till 6. And so, and the first 2 hours, they show up and they actually clean. They clean and feed the animals, obviously, 7 days a week. So they come in every day, at least 1 or 2 of them to do that. But that first 2 hours, they really do a deep cleaning, which includes disinfectant throughout all the kennels after they've cleaned up, and then rinsing that out. And so that gives them the first 2 hours to do that without a lot of traffic in and out.
Yeah, in the nature of my business and dealing with the public as I did for a lot of years, if you say I'm gonna close at 3, everybody's gonna show up at 5 minutes till 3, and it's just the nature of the business. And would it be beneficial for you to shorten those hours at all on the front or back side? You said 10 to 4.
Yeah, 10 to 4. So they come in at 8 and they stay till 5.
But I had the same problem closing at 9 and 10 and 11 o'clock. They all came in at 5 till 9 or 5 till 10 or 5 till 11. You could count on it, but I was always happy they was there. If you like, why don't you maybe make a note there, maybe give us an update, and maybe, I know the first of the year sounds like a long time, but it's a couple months away. Give it 8 weeks here and give us a little update, if you don't mind, Chief, how it's worked and what your thoughts are on it, and if you're going to continue doing that, if you'd like.
I'd be happy to.
So are you gonna publish those new hours via social media, website, et cetera?
Yeah, we wanted to wait till we came and talked to you guys and let you know about it. We're going to post it on the shelter doors. We'll also post it on the city's page, the animal control page, as well as the police department's page. And then we'll go into effect October 1. November 1.
You already had it in place, huh, Chief?
2023. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, thanks, Chief. We appreciate it. Okay, did anyone have any questions before we close out City Manager's report? Okay, we'll go ahead and close item 13 on the agenda. At this time, pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code, the City Council will recess into executive session to discuss the following: consultation with legal counsel, regarding contract terms and provisions on an interlocal agreement for fire services. At this time, the council will be headed in executive session. The time is now 9:18. In accordance with Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, the City Council will reconvene into regular session to consider action, if any, on matters discussed in executive session, which was consider approval of interlocal agreement for fire services with Titus County.
Mayor, I move that the city rescinds the 1-month extension of the existing fire contract approved on October 3rd, 2022. And I also move that the city extend the existing fire contract with Titus County from October 1, 2022 through September 30th, 2023 for $1.3 million to allow the county the opportunity to consider establishing its own department or to negotiate a long-term contract with the city, and that such negotiations must begin with significant time to allow the long-term contract to be complete by August 31, 2023.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion made by Councilman Dale, second by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, please record. Go ahead.
Would you read that date again at the end of that motion, please?
That the negotiation must begin with significant time to allow the long-term contract to be complete by August 31 of 2023.
Okay, we've had a motion, we've had a second. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous, and that will conclude all of our agenda items for tonight. At this time, floor is open for a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
We are now adjourned.